Hello and welcome to another stream. My name is Ray and it is Learning Korean Day 239. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Last time we started watching the recap videos on the YouTube channel of howtostudykorean.com, and I think we finished the recap video of lesson 8. And today we'll continue with that. Of course, everything in preparation for the very big Unit 1 test. I'm still doing some of the vocabulary off stream, so there are just 40 right now, and we didn't do vocabulary yesterday, so I did some in between. I think that's totally fine. And with that, let's go to the YouTube channel of howtostudykorea.com. 1 second. Okay. Here we go. Playlists, lesson recap. And yeah, lesson 9 is next. Yeah, I think nothing else to say. Let's go.
To another lesson recap. As usual, you should already be familiar with the grammar and vocab of this lesson. Alright, let's get into it. This lesson has 3 parts. Part 1. Ida in the present tense. Conjugating Ida in the present tense is a bit strange.
Ja.
It becomes ia or just ya in the low informal conjugation. So, for example, 너는 나쁜 사람이야. You're a bad person. Or 큰 문제야. It's a big problem. We all have that one friend that says that for everything, no matter how small it is, like forgetting to tweet something or liking someone's tweet. My response to this would be, 큰 문제 아니야. It's not a big problem. Now let's look at the high informal form. Conjugation of 이다.
or 예.
이것은 사과예요. Or 저는 선생님이에요. Also, let's look at 아니다 as well.
Wait, what?
과예요. 큰 문제 아니야.
Yeah.
A student.
Okay.
This here is actually something that's confused by Koreans and Korean learners as well. Actually, I had to check how to spell 예요. It's not really a big deal, regardless of which one you write. They both sound the same, and everyone will know exactly what you mean. But I think the first one is the correct spelling. All right, formal high conjugation.
Oh wait, what was this? 아니에요. 아니에요. He thinks the first one is the correct spelling. I think so as well.
Alright, formal high conjugation. 이다 conjugates to 입니다, and 아니다 conjugates to 아닙니다. So that's why at the beginning of every video, you'll hear me saying Cloud입니다, I'm Cloud. Well, that's because I'm using the formal high conjugation. Well, as for 아니다, 고등학교 아닙니다. It's not a high school. Now let's look at the past tense, and let's compare the different conjugations. So it's all the same sentence, but with different conjugations. 나는 학생이었어, 저는 학생이었어요, 저는 학생이었습니다, and 나는 학생이었다. And for 아니다, well, look a little like this. 나는 학생이 아니었어, 저는 학생이 아니었어요, 저는 학생이 아니었습니다, and 나는 학생이 아니었다.
How it's like not aligned, and the rest goes to the next line. It's so weird.
Okay, my favorite part of this lesson. We talked
this is
previously
easy.
about 깼다 and how it's used to make the future tense, and today we're going to look at another way to do that. So let's just take a verb like 하다. Let's take its verb stem and add 리을
갈 거예요.
and then let's add 곧, so it becomes 갈 곧, and then let's add 이다, which we just learned. So 갈 것이다, 갈 것이다. Now we conjugate it just like we just learned, depending on which formality we want to use. Also note that sometimes the 시읒 in 곧 is often dropped, so you'll see both used interchangeably. So let's look at an example. The low informal versus the high informal. 나는 한국어를 공부할 거예요. Or 나는 한국어를 공부할 거야 for the low informal, and 저는 한국어를 공부할 거예요 for the high informal. For the high formal and plain form, it would look something like this. 저는 한국어를 공부할 것입니다, and 나는 한국어를 공부할 것이다. And if you still don't know what the sentence means, it means I'm going to...
Oh, this is a little bit interesting here, this part. You have the S here, then of course you use 입니다. So it's 것입니다. But I wonder if you drop the S like here. It should be komnida, right? Komnida. Komnida. Not sure if I ever heard this. Let me try to go to Youglish here. See if we can find that. Komnida. Oh wow. Yeah, okay, 20k results almost. So I guess it's totally possible, yeah. Let's compare the version with an S. So Koshimnida. Oh, 25,000. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so I guess both are very popular and both are used. Okay.
To study Korean. This future tense is actually used everywhere. You can hear it literally everywhere. People talking, songs, dramas, movies, everywhere. One example that I can give you is one of the very few K-pop songs I've ever listened to. It's called Kashina by Sonmi. There's a line in it that goes something like this: "고개 숙일 거야," which means you'll lower your head. This is just another use of the future tense that I wanted to show you, the future tense that we just learned. Enough on that for now. We summarized the gist of it, but just be sure to check the lesson online for all the nuances and some more detailed explanation. All right, part 3. Using Hida and Teda for the future tense. When talking about something in the future, Hida and Teda can be quite similar, so let's try to differentiate them. Let's look at the sentence here. 저는 선생님이 될 것입니다, and 저는 선생님일 거예요. Now these would translate like this: I will become a teacher for Teda, and I will be a teacher for Hida. Now there's no real difference between the two sentences, but if we look at the past tense though, we see that one of them is became and one of them is was.
I have to go back here.
The sentence here. 저는 선생님이 될 것입니다, and 저는 선생님일 거예요.
I become a teacher. I will become a teacher. And here, I will be a teacher.
Now these would translate like this: I will become a teacher for Teda, and I will be a teacher for Hida. Now there's no real difference between the two sentences, but if we look at the past tense though, we see that one of them is became and one of them is was. Now I became a teacher and I was a teacher.
Yeah. They are two different words, that's correct.
There's a difference between be and become here. The difference is there, and it really depends on what you want to convey. I know that can sound confusing, but you just have to think about what is it that you want to say. Now, if you're not confused, let's look at one more thing that could possibly confuse you. If you are confused, you don't have to worry about what I'm about to say. Hida can sometimes create ambiguity in the future. So, for example, 그 사람이 선생님일 거예요.
This person will be a teacher.
Can be translated to that person is probably or most likely a teacher.
Yeah, it should be will be. That's the future conjugation of Hida. So should be will be a teacher. But this is a different usage.
So how do I know if it's a statement about the future or a guess? Well, in Korean, context is king. 90% of Korean is probably just context. By constant exposure to Korean, you'll develop a feel for it. Right now, you don't have to worry too much about distinguishing between them. Just focus on the conjugation and making sentences.
Okay, so saying to be in the future form, so will be, can also mean probably in the present tense. Okay, see, that's one thing that I definitely didn't know anymore. So that's why these recap videos are pretty nice, I think.
Speaking of making sentences, I've been slowly reducing the English translations that appear on screen since all of the vocab and grammar that I show has already been taught, and I really want to treat this as a review more than a condensed explanation. I end up saying the English translation most of the time anyways, but I wanted to see what you guys think. So should I keep adding the English sentences or should I gradually move away from them? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and I'll do whatever you guys want to do. That's it for this lesson. Be sure to check out
Okay,
the other cool
lesson
videos on this
10.
channel that'll also help you with this lesson. 안녕하세요, Claudio입니다. Hey guys, Claude here. Welcome back to another lesson recap. It's already lesson 10, so it's about time we learn how to count to 10. This lesson's a bit weird to recap, since the first half is just memorizing the numbers of both the Sino-Korean and Pure Korean. Since the numbers
the number lessons
are part of the vocab list, I won't be teaching them. Rather, I'll try my best to show different contexts and situations where the different number systems are used. The order of the parts might be slightly different than the full lesson online, just so I can have some fluidity in my train of thought. Having said that, let's get into it. This lesson is divided into 4 parts. The first part talks about counters. Whenever you count something in Korean, you actually have to attach a counter to the number. So for example, in 3 people, you'd say 사람 3명. 명 is the counter for people. For actions, I ate
noun number counter and then particle.
twice. 저는 2번 먹었어요. 번 is the
I ate twice, 2 times. Okay, so here we don't have a noun, so it's just number counter.
counter for an action. And for things, I bought 2 apples. 저는 사과를 2개 샀어요. 개 is the counter for...
Oh, here we have a noun particle number counter. Oh, okay, so that's a different one. I think I know that's possible, but it's uncommon. I think the more common one is 사과 together.
Things. When counting things like number of people or your age, the pure Korean numbers are used, but when telling time, a combination of both number systems is used. So let's look at 3:10. 3시 10분. The way I like to think about it is that pure Korean numbers are used for counting mainly, and since the hours only go up to 12, the pure Korean numbers are used because it's easier to count to 12. The minutes and seconds, on the other hand, only go up to 60 and are harder to count, so the Sino-Korean numbers are used instead. So 3:10, like we said, 3시 10분. Before we move on to the next part, I wanted to say that 90% of the time Sino-Korean numbers are used. You still need to know the pure Korean numbers, like we showed, but it's usually for smaller numbers.
Oh, 1 second. Do you see the little line? This one here? I don't like it. Okay.
I personally can't remember the last time I heard like soren, which means 30, in pure Korean numbers, but I personally can't remember the last time I heard like we said, 3시 10분. Before we move on to the next part, I wanted to say that 90% of the time Sino-Korean numbers are used. You still need to know the pure Korean numbers, like we showed, but it's usually for smaller numbers. I personally can't remember the last time I heard like soren, which means 30.
He cannot remember the last time 30 was used in pure Korean. So we had this discussion earlier. So for age especially, pure Korean numbers are used for the lower aged people and Sino-Korean numbers are used for the higher aged people. And I had different sources. I had some sources saying, yeah, until 60 or 50 you use the pure Koreans, then others, okay, only until 30 or so you use pure Korean, and after that already Sino-Korean. And he is now saying he cannot even remember the last time he heard 30. So it's even before 30 that you switch. So I think I will just remember that you switch at 30, I guess.
Pure Korean numbers, but I've heard some sheep like tens of thousands of times. One personal anecdote, when I went to Korea, I had to always drop off my room key to the front desk at the hostel that I was staying at. And when I'd come back, they give me the key. I would tell them my room number and they give me the key. So the guy there used to call me 606 because I'd always say, hey, I'm 606. So every time he'd see me, he'd greet me with 606씨, 안녕하세요. So that's that. On to the next part. Age. The counter for age is... So that's that. On to the next part. He'd see me, greet me with 606씨, 안녕하세요.
Yukyong.
So that's that. 606씨, 안녕하세요.
I don't really understand that part. So he's dropping his keys at the front desk. He's saying, "Hey, I'm 606," and the other people is greeting him with 606 as his name, basically. That's what I understood. But 606 should be Yuk Yong Yuk. But I don't hear the second Yuk.
Because I'd always say, hey, I'm 606. So every time he'd see me, he'd greet me with 606씨, 안녕하세요.
I hear like Yuk Yong Yoshi, something like that. I don't really get it.
My room key to the front desk at the hostel that I was staying at. And when I'd come back, they give me the key. I would tell them my room number and they give me the key. So the guy there used to call me 606 because I'd always say, hey, I'm 606.
Yuk Yong Yuk. There I heard it.
So every time he'd see me, he'd greet me with 606씨, 안녕하세요. So that's that. On to the next.
Yeah, I don't see. I don't understand this she. Is this polite way to say you? So you say the name and then she afterwards. So his name was Yuk Yong Yuk Shi. I think that's it. I think I got it now. Yeah, that should be it.
Part. Age. The counter for age is sa. If you're below 30, you would use the pure Korean numbers. Above that, it's more likely to see both, either one. But the older the age, the more likely it is for you to hear the Sino-Korean numbers used instead. Age is 6. So every time he'd see me, he'd greet.
Okay, so even with other counters, not just age, he said it here that he didn't hear 30 the last time. So even for other counters here, and not just for age. Age is the next part. So that's interesting. So we're using Sino-Korean numbers 30 and up in every situation. Okay.
If you're below 30, you would use the pure Korean numbers. Above that, it's more likely to see both, either one. But the older the age, the more likely it is for you to hear the Sino-Korean numbers used instead. Let's look at an example. Oh, it's already on the screen. 몇 살이에요? 16살이에요. I can't read. 16. How old are you? 16. All right, part 3. 번째. If you watch any Korean Q&A videos, like, you know how YouTubers shoot a Q&A video after reaching a certain number of subscribers? You're likely to hear something along the lines of 일단 첫 번째 질문, and then whatever the question is, which means a rough translation would be the first question is. As you can see here, what we learned in the lesson, 첫 번째 means first. So let's look at first, second, and third. 첫 번째, 첫 번째.
일단? What is 일단? This one is first, 첫 번째, and 질문 is question. First question. But I don't know what 일단 is.
Means first. So let's look at first, second, and third. 첫 번째 of 일단 첫 번째 질문, and then whatever the question is, which means a rough translation would be the first question is. As you can see here, what we learned in the lesson, 첫 번째 means first. So let's look at first, second, and third. 첫 번째, 두 번째, 세 번째. And lastly, the word for last is 마지막. So for example, 마지막 영화이다 is the last movie. Now part 4, tome. Tome is very versatile. We'll be learning different ways throughout the lessons to use part 4. For example, 마지막 영화이다. Versatile. We'll be learning different ways throughout the lessons to use it, but for now, let's look at the usage that indicates doing something for the first time. 저는 어제 선생님을 처음 만났어요. I met my teacher for the first time yesterday. We can also use 처음 to mean in the beginning. So 저는 처음에 체육 수업을 싫어했어요. At first, I didn't like PE class. Before we go, one last anecdote. I don't recall what it was that my friend did, but I said to him like, "Oh, you're really good at this. You must have done this a lot." And he responded with, 처음인데, it's my first time. At this point, you don't have to worry about how he conjugated it, but I just wanted to show that it can be used in a variety of different situations. So be on the lookout for that. That's it for this lesson, though. We have a Korean sign explanation video that shows the shortening of 첫 번째.
인데, that's, I would assume ida, but this grammatical concept or particle of in n and da was added, so it becomes inda. So the stem of Ida is I, and then you have N and Da added to it. I still have not learned it yet, but I know it exists. Okay. So let's go to lesson 11.
안녕하세요, Cloud입니다. Hey guys, Cloud here. Welcome back to another lesson recap. Today we'll be continuing from where we left off yesterday, talking about numbers. Today we're going to talk about time words and using numbers to describe when we did something, how long we did it for, things like that. Understanding the structure of the sentence is going to be much more fruitful than just memorizing things, because a lot of these things are very similar and they can be used in very similar ways. You'll see what I mean in a little bit. Alright, let's get into it. This lesson is divided into 7 parts. Part 1, 동안.
7
동안 is
parts.
quite easy to use actually. You just say the amount of time you did something for, and then you add 동안.
This recap is one of the most important recaps for me because I completely forget which of these words is what. Actually, wait, this is Dungan. No, I mean the one where you say for if you're doing something in a benefit for or about or time-wise from to or location-wise from or until maybe, all those things. I'm not sure which lesson it was, but that was very hard. Maybe it was 13 then. 12 was definitely the passive one. But maybe it's here as well. I'm not sure.
So 예를 들면, for example, 저는 30분 동안 운동했어요. I worked out for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
저는 20분 동안
Dungan after
연습했어요.
the
I practiced for
time.
20 minutes. All right. Part 2, 시간. We just learned how to say things for how long we did something for X number of minutes. We just bring the number that we want and we put 분 after to represent minutes. But if you wanted to say hours, I did something for X number of hours, we would instead add 시간. So let's look at an example. 저는 1시간 동안 달렸어요. I ran for 1 hour. Seconds in Korean works the same exact way. You just take the number and put seconds after. So 저는 10초 동안 공부했어요. I studied for 10 seconds. Now that's something no one here would say, of course. All right, next part. Last and next. I'm actually combining 2 parts of this lesson here because I feel like it makes sense. They're basically all words that refer to a certain point in time. So let's start with all of them. I really like this table in the lesson, so I added it here. I usually try to avoid using the same example or the same word-for-word explanation in the lesson to...
Okay, last week, so previous week, and final week. Majimak is final, so last week, but final week, not last as in previous one. So final week, Majimak, Ju is week, and Jinanju is previous week, or the week before.
Just give you another perspective, except for sometimes I can't think of another example, or the example given or the explanation is just really on point, and I don't want to change it. This is one of those cases. I did, however, add something to the chart since I'm combining 2 parts of this lesson. All right, this chart to me represents like a 6-week course that I'm taking. I'm currently on week 4, and I'm being asked about what I've been doing and what...
Ibonju, current week, okay. Next week, previous week, final week, okay.
What I plan on doing. So I say, 지난주에 공부했어요. Last week,
Jinanju, last week, I learned, I studied.
Then 이번, this week, 이번 주에...
Ibonju, Nolda, this week I played.
Then 놀아요. I'm just playing this week. Then 다음, next week, 다음 주에는 잘 거예요.
Yeah, time next week.
I'll sleep. And then finally, 마지막, the last, 마지막 주에는
final
울 거예요.
week.
The last week I'm just going to cry, since obviously I didn't study enough for my exam. All right, part 5. There's a lot of ways to say day in Korea.
Yeah, I think I have this.
So let's start off with 일.
Ooh, days, yeah. Days is also a good topic here to recap.
The Sino-Korean counter for days. Earlier this lesson, we learned how to talk about doing something for X number of minutes, seconds, or hours. Now let's look at how to say I did this for X number of days. 나는 3일 동안 안 잤어. Now, if I wanted to say that I didn't sleep for only 1 day, I would say 나는 하루 동안 안 잤어요. Here we use 하루. 하루 specifically means 1 day in Korean. There are other words for like 2 days and 3 days, like 이틀 and 사흘, but they aren't used as much as just saying 이일 and 삼일. Actually, there's a Korean variety show that's called 2 Days and 1 Night. In Korean, it's 1박 2일, which is 2 days, 1 night. Here they use il, just like we learned. One last note before we move on to the next example. When I studied this lesson, I learned haru and iter, and I memorized those two. And I thought I wouldn't need to know anything beyond that, like for the number 3 days, which is true. You can survive without using them. But not long after I learned this lesson, I was talking to my Korean language exchange partner, and she said the word sahe, and I had no idea what it meant. So I asked her, and she told me. So from my personal experience, I'd suggest knowing at least the words for 1 day, 2 days, and 3 days, even if you're not going to use them, just so you can recognize them when they're said.
Haru, Itil, Saul.
All right, let's look at another example. I will arrive on February 15th. If I wanted to indicate the day and month something is going to happen in Korean, you would take the day and the month in Korean and then add e at the end. So in this case, 저는 이.
Okay, so we have month, then day. And we're using the Chinese origin words here, wol and il. Those are both from Chinese. So that's a difficult topic for me. When do you use a pure Korean one, which is nal, or when do you use the Chinese one, which is il?
월, 15.
Same for months. Months has dal for pure Korean and wol for Chinese.
일에 도착. So you can say
Oh, thanks for the follow. Hundenhals. Thank you.
e is attached after 15 days. All right, lastly, let's look at na. Na also means day, but it's not used when counting days. Like il is used for counting how many days you do something. Na is like a specific day. So let's look at a couple examples. 그날에 수업이 있어요. I have class that day. That specific day. 우리는
That specific day. Then you use the pure Korean one. Wait, let me open something. I have written this down, I think, at some point. Words for days. Yeah, I have it here. I hope it's big enough for you. Let me increase it a little bit. Okay, so here, what do we have? Okay, for counting days, we use the Chinese one, the Sino-Korean one, il. And for specific name days, we also use il. But for specific days that have not any name, or that have no name, only then we use null. So specific days that do not have a name. Whew. Oh my god, that's really hard to remember. And I guess I can also do something else here. 2 days, 3 days, and here it's from, yeah, I guess I can just make it like this. Okay, so he's saying you should know the first three, which is itil, I think, itil, and sa. I think they are correct, but let me check to be sure. 2 days, correct. And here we have this one. Oh, that's not okay. Then it's ul, saul. It's not. Or is it samel? Wow. 3 days. Samuel, okay, I don't want Samuel, I want the other one. The pure Korean one. Damn, I don't get it. Samuel. Ah, hi, Red Blue Green. Maybe you can help me. You can tell me the pure Korean expression of 3 days. something like Saul. Samil, maybe? Saul? Saul. Man, damn it. You don't remember either? Okay, then I have to check it in the lesson. Yeah, I hate them too, but you should know the first three at least. Well, yeah, just the first three. That's enough. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Samir, Haru. Vocabulary lists. Where is it? Here. Sahil with an H. I forgot the H. Okay, there we go. Oh wow, do I have conditional formatting in here? Conditional format. Oh wow, okay, I do. Jesus. It's exactly. Can I guess I cannot. And starts with not empty. Less than. Let me do this very quickly. Can I copy this rule at least? Duplicate rule. I guess I have to click this, add another rule. Yeah, there we go. Till done. Yeah, okay, this works. Add another rule. Sa Hül. Okay, there we go. So these are, I think, pure Korean. Yeah, that's it. And for these ones, you can also kinda use eel. Or you can use Samuel. Yeah, it doesn't have to be green. Yeah, I make it green, whatever. Okay. So that's how you use days. Yeah, it's hard to remember. What can I say? Yeah, we'll just have to accept it like this. Okay, let's continue then.
두 번째 날에 서울에 갔어요. We went to Seoul on the second day. So a very specific day. And that's when it's used.
On the second day, then we use null.
Again, I've condensed three different parts into one part.
And now we have the months. We have dal.
I want to compare them, so let's look
or
at the same
Kwol.
sentence to compare. 저는 4 뭐뭐 동안 여자친구를 안 만났어요. I haven't met my girlfriend for 4x. So if I wanted to say for 4 weeks, I would say 4주. If I wanted to say 4 months, well, I have two options. I can say 4달, which is the pure Korean version, or 4개월, which
Yeah, 4달, pure Korean, or 4개월.
is the Sino-Korean version. And then if I wanted to say for 4 years, which is a long time not to see your girlfriend, that would be 4년. So
Wait, what is for week? I think you use a Sino-Korean number, right?
So if I wanted to say for 4 weeks, I would say 4주. If I wanted to say 4 months, well, I have two options. I can say 4달, which is the pure Korean version, or 4개월, which is the Sino-Korean version. And then if I wanted to say for 4 years, which is a long time not to see your girlfriend, that would be 4년.
Okay, do we have this as well? No. I have not put this into a chart. That's sad. Okay. Definitely something I need to fix at this point. I'm terrible with pure Korean. I'm terrible with all numbers. But yeah, pure Koreans are definitely harder than Sino Koreans for sure. So I want to see which one is more common for month. I feel it's the pure Korean, to be honest.
So hopefully that makes things clear. This is what I meant earlier when I said understanding the structure is more important than memorizing it, because you can always switch words out. If you understand the concept of 동안, then you don't need to memorize the word. You don't need to memorize separate constructs for hours and days and months and minutes and all that kind of stuff. It's just one basic concept, and then you apply it however you wish to. All right. Before we go, one last thing. Per. Let's say I want to say I eat 3 times per day, or 3 times a day, or I work out twice per week, things like that.
I can't
Well, the
remember
particle
this
a
part.
can be used to create this meaning. Let's look at this example. 저는 이 약을 하루에 2번 먹어요. I take this medicine twice a day. You can see
Twice a day. Twice a day. So 2 times in one day. 2 times in one day. Twice per day. 2 times in one day. Yeah, okay.
the word eat here is used because Koreans say that for taking medicine, they say 약을 먹다. Actually, anecdote time. The first time I learned this lesson, I started to use 일주일에 all the time, since I had like so many different activities that I did on a weekly.
What? 일주일에?
Here is used because Koreans say that for taking medicine, they say 약을 먹다. Actually, anecdote time. The first time I learned this lesson, I started to use 일주일에 all the time.
일주일에. 일주일에. I don't know what this is. 일주일에.
Since I had like so many different activities that I did on a weekly basis. So here's one such example. 저는 통화
Ah, okay. 일주일에. Yeah, that makes sense.
for taking medicine, they say 약을 먹다. Actually, anecdote time. The first time I learned this lesson, I started to use 일주일에 all.
일주일에. Okay, I didn't hear it as Jew. I thought he's saying 일주일에, and I couldn't understand that. 일주일에 makes sense. Two week. Wait, 일주일에. What?
the time, since I had like so many different activities that I did on a weekly basis. So here's one such example. 저는
1 week day. One time in one weekday. Weekday. I didn't see this before, that you have Ju and then Il right after it. Juil. I guess it means day of the week. No. Okay. Oh wait, is this? No, this is not a number. No, 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 this is not a number, right? I mean, Il is a number, but that's not meant here. Il equals 1, Juil equals week. Yeah, the problem I have, for me, what I learned is Ju means week and not Juil. I understand that Il is 1, but so he is writing out the numbers here. So this one is the first Il. I get this. But I'm talking about this Il. This Il is very weird for me because I learned week as Ju. So I would say Il jouait. Il jouait. I don't understand the second Il here. So it's Juil is just week? No special situation stuff or so? Just Juil completely interchangeably with Ju? I've never seen this before. I only saw Jouet, never with an il. It's interesting. Okay, thanks.
통화 누나를 일주일에 한 번 만나요. I meet 통화 once a week. 통화 was my very first Korean language exchange partner, and I learned a lot from her. So that's it for this lesson. One question before we go. 저는 통화 누나를 일주일에 한 번 만나요. I meet 통화 once a week.
Once a week. One time? So once? One time? In 1 week. Okay, one time in 1 week.
통화 was my very first Korean language exchange partner, and I learned a lot from her. So that's it for this lesson. One question before we go, though. I've been trying to add more examples of my own experience with Korean and adding context to them rather than making up different sentences without any prior context. Do you guys think that works with the style of video? You don't think it works with the style of video? Let me know what you guys think. Be sure.
It's fine. Okay, oh my god. It's lesson 12. Lesson 12 is next. The big passive lesson. Let's go.
안녕하세요, 카드입니다. Hey guys, Kadu.
안녕.
Welcome back to another lesson recap. Today we'll be learning some essential Korean particles to level up your Korean skills. Quick note before we start. As the lesson mentioned, and as you may have noticed before, a lot of the times the subject of the sentence is dropped.
This is also the longest lesson. I will do it on normal speed because this is really one of the hardest. Let's do it.
In Korean, especially when the subject is I. In English, we always say I'm hungry, but in Korean you just hear 배고파, since it's obvious I'm talking about myself. Alright, let's get into it. This lesson is divided into 5 parts. Part 1. Part 1. There we go. Part 1. The and using 몇 with counters. The is the Korean particle that makes things plural, so from apple to apples.
Okay, this is not the hard part. The hard part is the passive.
Distinguish between singular and plural as often as you think. Let's look at this sentence. 사과를 샀어요. This could mean I bought an apple, or I bought apples. If you really wanted to specify a number, you could, but in general you just leave it ambiguous. You could also say that you bought some apples, like such. 사과 몇 개를 샀어요. We could also change the meaning of the sentence simply by adding a question mark or raising our intonation. So
noun 몇 counter particle. Noun 몇 counter particle. Noun number counter particle. That's the same structure. Noun number or 몇 counter particle. Okay, nice.
사과 몇 개를 샀어요? What you cannot do though is the following. 사과들을 샀어요. You can't add 들
I think it's only for a person or for people, right?
to 사과, since 들 only attaches to people. Using it with apples or oranges or inanimate objects
Yeah, to people. Nice. Okay. Yeah,
in general
easy.
sounds really weird. You could use it like this. 학생들이 안 갔어요.
Oh, that's hard to see. 학생들이. Yeah, okay. In this case, 학생 is a student. Student is a person. So there you can make it plural by adding dil before the particle, before the subject marker. The students didn't go.
Students didn't go. Here, 학생 is a person, so adding 들 is acceptable. All right, man. In the last lesson, I was really
Only,
tempted
yeah.
to
I
use
know this
man
one as
over
well.
and over in many different examples, but I resisted since we were going to learn it in this lesson. Last lesson we learned to say how to say 30분 동안 공부했어요. At that time,
I only learned. I learned for 30 minutes. And now he wants to say, I only learned for 30 minutes. For 30 minutes only, I guess.
I really wanted to say 30분만 공부했어요.
Okay, I learned only 30 minutes. But there the dungan is missing, so it's not I learned for only 30 minutes. It's I learned only 30 minutes. This for is missing. I'm not sure if it's included in the man.
I only studied for 30 minutes. But 30
He
minutes
said
is better than
for.
nothing, so man is actually a context-reliant word, like very much, as are many things in the Korean language. So let me just show you what I mean. 저만 봤어요. Only I saw it. Now I could also
Only I.
say 저만 봤어요. Do you only see me?
저만 봤어요.
All of a sudden, 저 turned from the subject to the object. And since man replaces the subject and object particles, well, we can't put them on, so we can't help identify which one it is. So it can be really confusing. Like, what on earth is going on? How are we supposed to know? Well, context is king. Let me show you one more thing. The same sentence, 저만 봤어요, could also mean, am I the only one who saw it? Now, I just switched 저.
Who saw it? He forgot the saw here. Am I the only... I saw? Only I saw? Only I saw? Do you see only me? Yeah, so this is difficult, yeah.
To being the subject again. What I'm trying to convey is, without context, we can't really know which one it is. We actually don't have to worry about it too much though, because context almost always makes it clear. I'll provide context and I won't tell you what it means, and you'll be able to tell. So here's an example. Let's say there was a robbery at a store, and I'm the only witness. I could tell the cops, 저만 봤어요. What do you think that means?
저만 봤어요. A robbery. Yeah, the second one.
I'll tell you. Only I saw it. Let's change the scenario a bit though.
Ah, okay. It was not a question. Wait.
You'll be able to tell. So here's an example. Let's say there was a robbery at a store, and I'm the only witness. I could tell the cops, 저만 봤어요. What do you think?
Ah, okay. I somehow thought he's saying it as a question, but he didn't. Yeah, okay.
That means. I'll tell you. Only I saw it. Let's change the scenario a bit though.
But to be honest, I would not say that to the police, because how can I know? It's not like I analyze the whole environment and 100% I'm sure that nobody else is around here that could have seen it. That's very unlikely. So maybe it's the case that only I saw it, but I wouldn't say that because I can't know that. That's a weird sentence to say.
Let's say that you were with a group of friends when the robbery happened. and everyone else says they didn't see anything. You could say, 저만 봤어요? Am I the only one who saw it?
Mhm.
Finally, let's say you and your significant other are walking in the mall and a friend sees you and he starts talking to you, but he completely ignores your SL. You would point out that, hey, I'm not here alone. And all of a sudden, he realizes that you were someone and he starts apologizing. You might ask him, 저만 봤어요? Did you only see me? See? Context makes things clearer. Hopefully that sheds some light onto why context is king. Let's move on. Part 3. The
Okay.
difference between 에서 and 에 was
So also, I think I'm pretty comfortable with that. Those are the easy parts of this lesson, but the passive is coming. Or I totally mix up the number of the passive lesson. Maybe passive lesson is 16, but I think it was 12.
really confusing to me at first. I didn't know when to use which, but after reading this lesson a second time, I realized it was actually much simpler than I thought.
The way I remember it, a saw is always used when an action happens inside of a place. So the whole action. If I go to a place, that's not the action happening in a place, but if I say I eat at the restaurant, then the eating part is fully happening inside of the restaurant. So then I would use eso.
The key was understanding 에 better. 에 is only used to indicate a certain place or time. So it indicates the location you're going to, location you're looking at, location you're putting something on, location that you place something in. What that means is I went to the mall, I looked at her, I put it on the table, I found it in the fridge. All of these indicate a certain place or time. eso, on the other hand, only deals with where I was when I did something. I'll say that again. eso is used to refer to where the subject is when he does something. If you
Where the action happens
remember this, you'll be able to reason out whether
or
you need to
happens.
use eso or 에. Time for some examples. 지금 미국에서 추워요.
Jigim. What is Jigim again? Yesterday? No. Now. Now. Jigim. 미국에서 추워요. 추워요. It's cold in America right now.
It's cold in the US right now. Now, this isn't talking about where I'm going, but it's talking about the location of where it's cold. Another meaning of eso that can add confusion is from. I went from here to there, or I live far from my work. eso is used in these kind of sentences. Let's look at a very common example. 저는 미국에서 왔어요.
I came to America. I came to the US.
Which means I'm from America. Or more literally, I came from America. But what it means is I'm from America. You can insert any different country instead of America.
Yeah, okay. These are specific special situations where you use eso because just Korean language you say it differently compared to the English language. So by the English meaning, you wouldn't say that I'm from America. It's not an action happening inside of a place. And also his explanation with where the subject is when doing the action, that's also not correct for this example. If you say I'm from America, but he's currently in Korea, then that doesn't work. Yeah, but Korean people say this I come from, or I came from, or I am from. Yeah, they say it with wassoyo. They say it the past tense of to come all the time, so it's always came. I came from America. Yeah, and I guess you use eso in that case. So that's kind of like a special thing you have to remember, I feel. But in all the other cases, it's just where the action is happening.
And you'll be able to say like, I'm from here. All right, we spent some time on 에서, and that's still not everything, but we have to move on. So
There are two uses, eso action happening in, yes, and eso from. Yeah, this is a okay. I guess the one other usage of eso then. Okay, yeah, but you also have to remember that you use to come and not to be, and you have to remember that you use the past tense and not the present tense. So this sentence has multiple things that are different from English. So an English person would say, "I'm from Germany," but a Korean person would say, "I came from Germany." So there are multiple special cases, or cases, things that are different from English. So I think it's important to remember the whole sentence as a special case, I think.
make sure to reread this part of the lesson to solidify your understanding, and also take a shot at the sentence practice video to see what it is you still need working on, or if you already understand it. All right, part 4. 부터까지.
Just one difference versus German. Uh, Germans say they use to come as well. Ich komme aus Deutschland. I come from Germany. But I feel like I have heard the to be version in German as well. Ich bin aus Deutschland. I think I heard that. Maybe I just heard it from foreigners, but I'm not sure. Ich bin aus Deutschland. Yeah, like German natives would always use to come, right? Ich komme aus Deutschland. Yeah, to come is definitely way more natural in German. Okay.
I remember.
Oh, okay. Here we have Pouton and Gaji. So I guess this is not a passive language. We don't have a lot of video left.
First time I saw these particles was in the following sentence.
I guess it's lesson 16 then, I think. But this one was hard as well. I remember 12 as a hard lesson. And this is the reason why I can never remember what's Putor Kaji, but one of those is only used for places and the other one is only used for times. So there are like 3 words instead of 4 or 2. So you use one of them for place and time, but the other one is only used for one of them. And you have a different one for the other thing. So it's a bit confusing.
발끝까지.
Okay, from head to toe. So here we have Puton as from and Kaji as to. And this is basically a location, right? This is not a time, it's a location. And for time, one of those is used and the other one is not. I don't know.
Which means from head to toe. 부터 means from, or like from the start, and 까지 means to or until. So for example, 3시까지 기다렸.
Okay, let me translate myself. From 3 o'clock. No, wait, Kaji in the beginning? And until 3 o'clock. Kidarida. Kidari. I waited. I waited until 3 o'clock.
I waited until 3 o'clock. Or 지금부터 내일.
Okay. From now until tomorrow. I will wait until tomorrow. From now until tomorrow.
내일까지 기다릴 거예요. I'll wait from now until tomorrow. One more example. 나는 인천부터 서울까지 갈 거예요.
Incheon is a city in Korea, so I will go from Incheon to Seoul. Okay, so this is also a place and this is a time, and in both cases we have used Puto and Kaji, so I guess my statement from the beginning was incorrect. But there was a third one.
Yeah, I'll go from Incheon to Seoul. 부터 is often attached to 처음 to mean from the start. So for example, 처음부터 싫어했어요. I didn't like
처음 was first time. From the first time.
it from the start. Now, 울어. 울어 can have many.
Wait, he's just skipping that? There was some weird exception for this difference between time and place. There was some third word for that. Maybe it's coming later. I think you're thinking about eso and a, which is only for places. I don't think so. I don't think I think about that. We'll see. We'll see. We
Translations in
have 2
English,
minutes
but the
left,
main
or one and a
theme
half.
is that the word attached to 울어 is a means or a utility, like via
This
something.
one I know. This
So,
one
for
I'm
example, I
comfortable
cut the
with.
tree down with an axe. The axe is the mean,
The
so 울어
tool.
would be attached to axe. It can also mean, 울어 can also indicate direction, as in 이쪽으로 와요, come here, like in this direction. Another very common use of 울어 is to ask what something is in a language. So, for example, 이것은 한국어로 뭐예요? What is this in Korean? This is something I said a lot. I actually still use it a lot as well. Okay, one last usage of 울어. 울어 can also mean for or as. Let's just look at an example. 어제 저녁으로 햄버거 먹었어요. Yesterday I ate a hamburger for or as dinner. And also, although this lesson doesn't mention this kind of usage for other than meals, but it technically can be used for other things. So, for example, 이것은 선물로 받았어요. I got this as, or I got this for a gift.
As or for a gift.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't worry
okay.
too much about remembering all the usages of 울어. I take it one usage at a time. Just know that it can be used in diverse ways. Eventually, you'll just get the feel for it. All right, that's it for this lesson. I'll link
What?
2 separate Korean sign explanation videos.
Okay, we are going back to the lesson. I don't accept this. There was some weird stuff. Oh, wait, maybe it's in the next one. I don't know. No, I know, I don't know. Let's see. From. Yeah, maybe I'm meaning eso. From and to. So yeah, here we have from and to, and there's 3 words. So eso here is talking about this usage of action happening inside of a place. Okay, this is not has nothing to do with from. Where an adjective occurs. Yeah, okay. Another main usage of okay. So it is another usage of eso. So eso is not only used for this I came from or action happening inside of a place. So this one is a third usage. From in the most basic sense. It can indicate a place from which a subject is departing. So I guess this one is only used for place, as you mentioned, yeah? Only for places. Okay. Oh, okay, sorry, yeah. That was my YouTube cutout, where you see just the YouTube video bigger. Thanks. Okay, Puto Kaji. Let's see, let's see, let's see. Okay, here, puto is very similar, but specifically for identifying the place or time. Okay. Particle identifies the person departed from. Okay. Most Koreans would use rather a saw for starting or departing from somewhere. Here, puto is commonly attached to a time to indicate when something starts. Okay, okay, okay. So that was the thing that I had in my mind. So puto is only used for time from time. Eso is used from place, and kaji is used for both time and place. Eso puto. Yeah. Yeah, let's just not do that. Okay, wait, let me search. Eso puto. So pu. Oh, eso puto is not. Have I entered it correctly? Yes, I have. I can't see it in this lesson, so that's good. Puto eso, eso not. Okay, this combination is not mentioned in this lesson at least, which makes me happy. Okay, so eso from place, puto from time, kaji to place or time. It's very common to see kaji used in the same sentence as puto, yeah, because kaji is used for both. So I guess it's also used very common. It's also very common to see kaji used in a sentence where you use eso, right? Eso kaji? Yeah, here eso kaji. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Puton kaji. But this is not very common. They would rather use eso. Okay, okay, got it, got it. Puton for time, from when it starts. Okay. Puton attached to chaum. Chaum is a time, yeah, first time, first time. Puton used for time. Okay, it all makes sense. Oh, I just checked, and all the examples I had of eso puton are from North Korea. Okay, yeah. Why do you have so many sources from North Korea? What's going on there? Are you a spy? From start to finish. Oh, what do we have here? Could often means finish. Ah, yeah. Gneda. Gnada. Gneda, gnada. Good. Good kaji. Hmm? Okay, I got everything. All good. So, that was lesson 12 recap. Oh, so we needed 2 days for 12 lessons, and we have 13 remaining. That's at least another 2 days, probably 3 days, especially with the passive lesson coming up. Hmm. Besides StarCraft, North Korea is another reason I study Korean. Oh, it is, okay. Interesting. Why is that? Is do you have like is North Korea so interesting for you for some reason compared to South Korea? Is there something in North Korea that is very interesting to you that is not in South Korea? Because it's one of the strangest places in the world. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, nice. Do you have or have you noticed a lot of differences between North Korean? It even feels weird to say North Korean. So Korean as a language and just adding North in front of it. North between North Korean and South Korean. It's weird if you don't add the language, North Korean language and South Korean language. But yeah, have you noticed any big differences so far, or is this eso puto one of the only differences? No, not a lot. Okay, that's good. So if I get imprisoned in North Korea, I can at least talk to the natives in their native language to maybe get out of jail. Maybe like, oh, well, Swiss and German is, I consider that very different. I have no idea about the writing part, but the speaking part, in my opinion, is almost like two different languages sometimes. I know there are a lot of Swiss people who are trying to speak so that Germans can understand them more. But if you have a Swiss person, that doesn't matter if Germans can understand them or not. They're just speaking pure Swiss. It's pretty hard to understand for a German, in my opinion. So I consider that a pretty big difference. Okay, okay. What about American English and British English? That is pretty similar to me. Of course, there are some words like color or so, where you have the O in American English or the OU in British, or some words that end in ER. So like theater, the ER is switched in British, it's RE. So those things I consider very small. So that's a small difference for me. But I assume that North Korea is more different from South Korean compared to American English to British English, right? So you notice a few more differences in those two Koreans compared to the two Englishes. Englishes. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so it's in between the Englishes and the Germans. Oh my God. Okay. Oh, what do we have here? Eso, eso puto. Ris, ri son seng nim. Wait, what? No. Ri son seng in. Well, I don't even know what ri son seng is. Ah, that's a name. Because son seng is like teacher without the nim. Yeah, I've noticed that. We know. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Anyways. Mm, Jeep an eso puton. Jeep an. From inside the home. Park, pargat, park outside. Okay, outside. Euro. Na was simnida. To come out. To come out. To to come outside from inside of your home. So the person came outside from his home. Is that the translation, or am I missing something? Or in English, the person came outside. It feel like it's a lot more words for no reason, and I thought Koreans are lazy. From inside of the home, outside, outside ro, and then na oda as well. Na oda also already means to come out, right? Na oda? Yeah, I think to come out is already na, so the na already says outside. Then the bagat de ro also means outside. So the ro, it's like everything is doubled. I think you could only you could say bagat by itself without euro, and it will also mean the same, right? I think the euro is bonus, the na is bonus, the eso puto, one of them is bonus. Ah, okay. North Koreans are not lazy. North Korean, very diligent, diligent. I see. Uh, 정말 열심히. I see. 정말 열심한 사람들은. Okay, we'll just stop it here. Okay, I have still not eaten today. I kinda have to eat. I'm kinda hungry. Uh, uh, 배고파. 퉁지, 퉁지, comrade. You can use it as a title for everyone. Makes it a lot easier. Okay, 퉁지. Do you get a lot of weird looks if you use Tongji in South Korea then? I would say so, right? Or is you think it's also used in South Korea a bit? Or is everyone instantly knowing, oh, North Korean? It's pretty funny. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's it for this lesson. Thanks a lot for giving some insights, some some help as well. And we will continue with lesson 13 tomorrow, which is Saturday. Yeah. And of course, I'm streaming StarCraft in around 1.5 hours or so. Yeah. Okay, so thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day and bye bye. Annyeong.